And good morning, everyone, from Scottrade Center. I'm John Kelly, joined here by Andy Strickland. And of course, it is deadline deal day in the NHL, and the Blues have made a rather significant trade with the Winnipeg Jets, Andy, sending Paul Stastny to the Jets for a conditional 2018 first rounder and young prospect Eric Foley.
And Foley is a guy, first off, let's talk about him, John, then we'll get into Paul Stastny. He's a scoring winger playing at Providence College right now, and they fully believe that he can play in the National Hockey League. He brings some speed, but he also brings some energy. So they like him. They expect him to be part of the fold moving forward in the future. And in the case of Paul Stastny, whenever you have a player who's going to be an unrestricted free agent, you got to try to acquire assets. And I think that was Doug Armstrong's mindset going into today. If he could get something for Paul Stastny, I think he would go ahead and do so. You get a first-round pick for a guy who's going to be a UFA. It's a pretty good deal for Doug Armstrong and the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah, and as we know, Andy, the Blues did not have a first-rounder until this trade because of course, they made that trade in the summer for Braden Shen. So now they do have a first-rounder, but again, we don't know if another deal could materialize before 2 o'clock Central. You just don't know.
Well, I think that's the most important thing. Now, all of a sudden, Doug Armstrong has some options if he wants to go down that road between now and 2 o'clock this afternoon, St. Louis time, when the trade deadline expires. There's a lot of good players that are still out there, some players who are out there who still have term left on their contract, who could be a help to a team not only for the rest of this season, but also beyond this year. So if Doug Armstrong wants to flip that pick, of course they didn't have a first-round pick like you mentioned because of the Braden Shen deal, then obviously those options are now in play.
And the Blues also have a lot of options at center. This is assuming, of course, they don't make any more deals before today's deadline. Obviously players like Berglund, Sobotka, Zach Sanford, and Tage Thompson could all play center ice.
Well, absolutely. They kind of had a logjam there. A lot of these guys have some versatility. They can play the wing. Some of them are kind of the same player. But Paul Stastny probably gave you a true top six presence there up the middle with his ability to win faceoffs, and he's scored a lot over the course of his career. 40 points this year, that matches his total from last year, albeit in fewer games this year, and certainly he's been healthier. But again, finalizing the fourth year of a 4-year contract extension for Paul Stastny, who came over, it seems like 2 years ago, but it was actually 4 years ago. It's amazing how time flies. But he'll go to Winnipeg. He'll help that hockey club for sure.
And obviously, as we know, Paul grew up here in St. Louis. His dad played for the Blues, and he's done a lot for the Blues on and off the ice. He's been a model citizen.
Well, he has, and again, this is the business side of the National Hockey League, right? When you don't have a contract or you have an expiring contract, then you got to do what's best for the organization moving forward. And I'm not exactly sure what Doug Armstrong's plans were with Paul Stastny beyond this season, and who knows? It may not change what the plans are with Paul Stastny. He's going to be a UFA. He will have the option to sign wherever he wants to sign with. But again, you got to have some flexibility. You got to acquire some assets for a player who you're not exactly sure you're going to have back next season.
And Paul did have to waive his no trade, by the way,
yes,
to have that deal go through.
Yeah, he did that early on this morning, and he's going to go to a team that believes they're a contending team. Now, St. Louis obviously still sitting just on the outside looking in. I still think they believe they can get back into the playoffs here and find a way to now sneak in through the back door. They've got some other players, like you mentioned, who can play the center position. And again, you can't stress enough, there are some players that are out there right now, and it'll be really interesting to see how aggressive Doug Armstrong is from this point moving forward between now and 2 o'clock later on this afternoon.
So again, the Blues trade Paul Stastny to the Winnipeg Jets for a first-rounder and prospect Eric Foley, who plays at Providence College. We'll be around all day covering any other potential deals the Blues do make, and also later today, after the 2 p.m. deadline, we're hoping to talk to Blues General Manager Doug Armstrong.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he's thinking and, again, what he does throughout the rest of today and, what his mindset has been over the course of the last few weeks. Has it changed versus what he was thinking in regard to the last, a couple of weeks ago? But it'll be very interesting. We're just getting started, John.
All right. Again, the Blues trade Paul Stastny to the Winnipeg Jets. We're live at Scottrade Center, and we'll be here all day. Thank you very much.